let's move on to the NBA. NBA offseason is in full swing. A lot of the stuff has already happened. We're essentially at wait for LeBron mode right now. But I want to talk through some of the big things with some of the big names. Just get my reaction and seeing where we might go from here. Let's start with the news that shook the league. Jaylen Brown is a Philadelphia 76er. Traded for Paul George. Celtics also got a couple first round picks and second round picks in the trade. I don't think anybody really knows what this trade was. Since this trade has happened, I've been listening, I feel like for weeks now, podcasts of all the people in the NBA, either on the podcast or telling somebody on the podcast that they don't think this was a good trade and they're really confused why it happened. That's where we're at with the Jaylen Brown trade. I don't really get what Boston was doing either. I wonder if we get a story about how bad things got between Jaylen and the Celtics as an organization. What drove them to the point where they not only felt the need to trade Jaylen Brown, I think we understood why they wanted to trade Jaylen Brown. The Giannis trade rumors happened, and I was like, Jaylen doesn't really want to be on the team anymore. This is going to be really hard to resolve by keeping him around. Not to say it would be impossible, but I understood if this team, especially at the financial space, having Tatum and Brown on their team, put them in. I could see this team looking at the situation. I mean, like, okay, we tried to trade Giannis, accelerate the window for right now if we're going to put the money into it. Jaylen obviously didn't like that. We probably need to move on. Try something different. I get it. Totally understand. Something had to be really bad. And maybe it wasn't, but it feels like something had to be really bad behind the scenes for them to push this trade through this early. And I get that they didn't do what Dallas did. They canvassed the league. They didn't do what Dallas did with Luka and just make a trade without talking to anybody to see if there was a better offer there. I don't think there were a lot of great offers for Jaylen Brown out there. I am shocked that led to them taking this trade offer instead of just waiting until like August or September and just seeing how it plays out. Donovan Mitchell got traded to the Cavs in like August. Karl-Anthony Towns got traded to the Knicks like 2 or 3 weeks before the season started, I wanted to say. These trades don't need to happen right now. They just don't. Trades don't have to happen in June or July. There's a reason why a lot of them happen then, right? There's a lot of freedom and flexibility. It's the best time to make a trade. It's a lot easier to make trades during this period of time than the trade deadline, and even a little more so than later on in the summer. But the difference between making a trade now and making a trade later in the summer, it's not so much more difficult later in the summer that you accept a trade like this. If anything, when you get to this point, where the return for your trade is clearly much less than you think you should get, you have a lot of freedom to just sit for a couple months and see what happens to the rest of the league. Like, there could have been 4 or 5 teams that maybe thought they had a chance to get LeBron right now. We'll get to LeBron in a minute. Then when they strike out, maybe they would have thought, hey, Jaylen Brown might make sense in that role. Obviously, LeBron and Jaylen Brown, different statures. They don't play the same position. One's more of a power forward, one's more of a shooting guard right now. They both can kind of play small forward, though. That's the thing. I think none of us understand the trade because there was no reason to not show some more patience. And maybe we'll find out one day. I think that's the other interesting part of it. If you've been around sports long enough, specifically basketball, but sports in general, there's this thing called the Now You Tell Us article, right? Where after a player is traded or a coach is fired or an organization within sports moves on from some type of personnel person, either player or staff member within that team's organization, when they remove that person, whether fire, mutually parting ways, often there's an article that comes out explaining just how bad things had been recently to help us better understand why this team made a trade or why this team got rid of this coach, this, that, or the third. Now, the Boston Celtics are particularly bad offenders when it comes to this thing. Again, most organizations do this. The Boston Celtics are kind of notorious for it, though. The Boston Celtics, when somebody is gone from their organization, and anything that may seem like either unacrimonious or acrimonious in how the split happened, or if the Celtics themselves just look like they were kind of treating a player or a coach like crap and how they disposed of them. There is often after that some type of article, and I said Celtics, I should clarify. This is a Boston sports specific thing, not just the Celtics. This is something that happened with the Red Sox, I want to say, I want to say Mookie because everybody loved Mookie. The guy that came to the Giants, who I should remember his name, and I'm blanking on it, and I apologize. Let's look it up. Why not? We haven't looked up anything today. I keep wanting to say Rafael Furcal, and that's not it. He's Rafael Devers. That's why I want to say Rafael Furcal. It happened to Devers when the Red Sox traded him to the Giants. It happened to Isaiah Thomas when the Celtics traded him to the Cavs. There's another good example somewhere in there with the Celtics. I can't find it right now. But it's a thing. The Now You Tell Us article. There hasn't really been a Now You Tell Us article for Jaylen Brown here. And it's weird because it feels like this is the situation that demands it the most. Quote unquote demands it. The Celtics and the Boston sports teams and media don't ever have to do this. This is always a little bit icky when they do this. But if there was ever a time where you needed to help your fans understand why you just did what you did, even if it meant shitting on the guy on his way out the door, this was the time to do it. Because you traded him for you traded a finals MVP and all NBA level player for Paul George and 2 first-round picks. This was the time to explain how bad things have gotten. And we haven't got the article yet, which is interesting. That could be a Brad Stevens operating differently than Danny Ainge thing. That could be that's not what was happening here, and we don't want to crap on Jaylen on his way out. Maybe there's stuff going on that we don't understand. Yeah, I think at some point, some articles, some understanding that this trade is going to happen. For now, it's a mystery to all of us why they made this trade. But it's here, and it's done. Let's talk a little bit about the basketball of it. Paul George is a pretty good fit on the Celtics team. Obviously, he's making way more money than they like for him to be making. Obviously, it's a clear step down in talent from Jaylen Brown. He's like Paul George is at his peak. Maybe was a better player than Jaylen Brown right now. Probably was. Paul George's career was weird. But obviously, Paul George is older and not at that point of his career anymore. So this is a clear downgrade. Like, don't get twisted. This is still a bad trade. And that you're downgrading talent and didn't get enough pick leverage to have that make sense. And the other side that people are sleeping on, like, Paul George doesn't make any less money than Jaylen Brown. Obviously, for this trade, you like just to make trades in the NBA, you need salary to mostly match or be like within a reasonable facsimile of each other. But usually in something like this, like maybe a deal that's going to expire soon, I think Paul George has like one less year on his contract than Jaylen Brown did at pretty much the same money. Maybe doesn't escalate as quickly as Jaylen Brown does. It wouldn't because Paul George signed with a new team, which is a less percent raise you can get when you sign a max with via bird rights with the team that already had you. So there's a little bit of savings there, and obviously like getting out the contract sooner is always valuable if you can, but it's not like a significant like jump from like now we're getting off this money like 2 or 3 years earlier, or if we're getting off this money next year now. All that being said, Paul George fits what this team wants to be. If they're going to continue down the path of, which again, it seems like they're changing things up a bit, but as far as just the piece, the reason you would trade Jaylen Brown and bank on players like Peyton Pritchard and other players on this Celtics roster, like Paul George fits the mold of that type of player. Good shooter, good defender. In the past was maybe prone to some of Jaylen Brown's like the tendencies that the Celtics didn't like from Jaylen Brown as far as like dribble happy, mid range, pull up happy, all that stuff. Like he just doesn't. Paul George just had those issues. He doesn't do those things nearly as much as he used to be, just because he's getting older and he's not the focal point of his offenses in the same way. But as a result, yeah, he doesn't waste his time dribbling and taking midi pull ups like he used to. So I think the fit in the Celtics system actually is going to work really well. I think he's going to fit the Celtics like a glove. But again, it's a clear downgrade in talent. I'm curious how good the Celtics are going to be. I don't know if Jason Tatum at this point will still be good enough to lead a team to being the best in the East. He probably is going to get back there, but we do still have to see it. He showed really well coming back last year, but he hasn't gotten back to peak form yet, which nobody I think expected him to yet. But we don't know. We need to see if he's going to get back to being JT again. And even if JT is JT again, it's still a clear drop in talent, right? Even if Paul George fits the team better, it's a clear drop in talent. So I'm curious how good this team is going to be. I will give them the credit of Paul George is a pretty good fit to what they're building. I think they believe in some of the younger players or some of the players that found rhythm last year who didn't play much last year. Didn't play much 2 years ago who found rhythm this year. Guys like Hugo Gonzalez. They have somebody named Shireman, I think. Some players like that. They have players like that on their team. Obviously, they got Peyton Pritchard and guys like that. Still, Peyton Pritchard's not making like any money, which is beneficial for them too. So I think they can be good. I don't know if they're going to be the best team in the East. They also still could be the best team in the East, especially because I don't think the Knicks are never a great regular season team. They're never a outstanding regular season team like that. The Knicks will most likely win 50 games again, or like somewhere between 50 and 55 games again next year, which is great. But I doubt that they're going to be at the 55 plus or the 60 win pace. And if there's a team in the East that can't do that, I think they can win the East. I'm not going to put it past Boston being that team. Actually, Boston finished with a better record than the Knicks last year. And as much as they downgraded in certain ways, I think they could still do that. Again, I want to see it though. I'm curious to see what this team looks like, what this team plays like. But yeah, weird trade for them. Real quick on the Philly side of it. I like this team. I don't know how it's gonna all mesh together, but they have a lot of talent. It's like very guard heavy talent. I wonder if this does mean that Jaylen Brown's kind of a full time small forward now, which I think he would kind of have to be just on a team that has Edgecombe and Maxey and just picked up Quentin Grimes, I believe. That's who they picked up, if I remember correctly. Good pickup, but also a guard. So I feel like Jaylen's gonna have to play a decent amount of three, which he's capable, definitely. But I think he most naturally fits as a shooting guard. So we'll see how that part works. But yeah, the talent is just there. Give me Maxine and Jaylen Brown, and there's not a lot of better 1-2s in the league. I was having this discussion the other day. Who are the better 1-2s in the league after Maxine and Jaylen Brown? Besides Maxine and Jaylen Brown, Bam and Giannis. I'd probably take over them. Maybe. I think Wimby and Dylan Harper will probably get there next year, but even that, we still need to see Dylan Harper make that leap. I think we're all assuming he is based on how good he was in the puck, but we still technically need to see it. Brunson and Towns as another comp. I think I'm taking Brunson and Towns over them, mostly because they just won the chip. But the point is, they have a duo that matches a lot of the best duos in the league at this moment. And starting at that point, and I guess having that duo and knowing you have a player like Joel Embiid still there too. That's not me talking about Joel Embiid at all. The fact that you have a great duo and Joel Embiid. Again, we don't know exactly what we get from Embiid, but if he's even able to just be decent through the regular season and surviving and be around the playoffs, and you have this duo, yeah, I like the look of that. Honestly, Edgecombe hopefully continues to improve. I'm excited to see what this team looks like. Both these teams, I'm very curious to see what these teams look like next year. The East is going to be really fun. I believe we'll talk a little more about that as we go through some more action. Although, as I'm looking at this, is a lot of West Coast stuff. So I will just tap in really quick and say the East is going to be fun. Players have moved around in an interesting enough way that I don't think there's just not a lot of bad teams in the East. You could argue maybe like the Wizards, Bucks, and Nets. But also, none of those three teams have bad players on them, especially just the way this trade deadline went. Like the Wizards might not be good, but they have Anthony Davis and Trae Young on their team. So maybe they're and AJ DeBosta. So I can't bank on them being like awful. The Milwaukee Bucks kind of are moving to a new place, but like they have Tyler Hero and a bunch of other Heat players on their team, plus 2 early draft picks. So they might be decent too. And the Nets have Michael Porter Jr. and Julius Randle. Again, they're probably not going to be good, but those are 2 like good basketball players. So who knows? The East is going to be fun because those are like the 3 worst teams in the East, and even they have talent around them and everybody above them. Making it interesting. Chicago's kind of in the mix, but Chicago even has. I like a lot of the moves Chicago made too. So East is going to be fun this year. I don't think we have a clue really who's going to be on top of it. We probably need to wait to see where LeBron lands. But I think Boston has a chance. I think Philly has a chance. I think Cleveland has a chance. And I mean, I think the Knicks have a real chance of repeating as champions and winning the Eastern Conference in the playoffs. I highly doubt the Knicks finish with the best record in the East, though, because that's just not how the Knicks roll, even when they're great. Okay. Oh, I will just say, because I didn't have this on my rundown today, Kawhi Leonard to the Raptors is a scary pickup. Scotty Barnes is really good. Kawhi came off maybe the best season of his career last year, which is a wild thing to say. If not the best season of his career, he was clearly one of the 5 or 6 best players in the league by the end of it last year. So he's still really good. Scotty Barnes in the playoffs was like really good. I really like that Murray Boyles kid, Sheed. They still have Quickly and RJ and everything. He didn't have them on the list, but if I was LeBron James, I don't know why this ain't the team to go to, unless you and Kawhi got like actual beef, which I don't think they do. But if I were LeBron James, I would go to the Toronto Raptors, personally. Because I don't think anybody stops y'all. Okay. Chasing the no avail, wish I was erasing fails. Bitch lie and say you could fly, but her breath ain't reaching the sails. Debating to find my station, the place I'm in feel like hell.